wanted to ourselves a little bit. I'm gonna ask Austin actually to do that for us. For both Startup Hawaii as well as Wailoa Ventures. We're partnering to co-host this event here in Mokupapapa. And for all of you joining us online, thank you. And Maria is facilitating our online virtual participation. So come this way.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us here this evening. So this is an event that is co-sponsored by Startup Hawaii, as well as Wailoa Ventures. Maria, who is the founder of Startup Hawaii, is on our Zoom right now, managing that, and I am going to tell you a little bit about what they do. Startup Hawaii is building a tech startup and innovation ecosystem to create a more diverse, equitable, and sustainable economic future for Hawaii Island. The organization is creating continuity and purposeful connection across the existing programs and initiatives in this ecosystem and addressing areas of need, including connecting talent to professional opportunities and hands-on experiences, connecting entrepreneurs to knowledge, resources, and expertise required to launch and scale their companies. Startup Hawaii defines technology broadly to include traditional software technology, science, and engineering with a particular focus on innovative solutions related to resilience such as climate, energy, food security, waste, etc. And Rebecca and I here are representing the other co-sponsor of the event, Wailoa Ventures. Wailoa Ventures is a local consultancy that is supporting businesses that are looking to grow their operations to reach a new level of scale and who are aligned with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Our website is wailoaventures.com, and we'll talk more about ourselves later. I don't want to hold up this excellent conversation which is about to occur between Rebecca and Kalisi. So would you like to begin?
Yeah, all right. Okay, so I was gonna pull up your bio, Kalisi, but there's no internet access here. But in short, Kalisi Mausio is our entrepreneur. We invited her specifically to this partnership, between tech and sustainability and circular economy and how to grow wealth in our community. I feel like she represents a lot of those facets in the ways that she operates her business, the intention by which she created her many projects. And so we get to hear a little bit about it. They're all evolving, and obviously, there's lots of parts in play, but we wanted to use this forum to introduce you to some of those projects and specifically to, get community involved. There's folks here from Ulu Co-op, there's folks here who are other farmers across other organizations. And, we all know we have to work together. So we were hoping that, as Kalisi shares more, that you might have ideas about how you might support, partner as well. And with that, I'm going to ask Kalisi to maybe highlight, like, what would you introduce yourself as at this point in your journey? Because, you're a seasoned entrepreneur, but also there are other facets of your life. So I just wanted to kind of kick it off that way. And that wasn't a prepared question, so sorry for putting you on the spot. Yeah.
Sure. Aloha mai kako, everyone. Thank you for coming in here today. I mean, this is just amazing that you would choose to come and spend your time with me. So I'm honored. And what's the question? So
introduce yourself.
What would I call myself now? I'm definitely not seasoned. I'm a very young stage entrepreneur. I wish that was the case for my age, but I've only been doing this for 5 years. And before that, I was a scientist and I worked for NOAA, actually. Thank you, NOAA, where we are. This is one of their sites. But I guess I would say at this point that I am a multi-passionate mompreneur. And yeah, I mean, being a mother is a big part of my identity, and I'm just juggling it all together. So that's how I identify myself now. And yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. I would also ask, kind of as you've launched your projects, I understand a lot of it is rooted in like where you come from and who you are. You just mentioned identity. Can you share a little bit about your background?
Sure. So I was born and raised in Tonga. I'm a Pacific Islander, and I come from probably one of the only countries in the Pacific that was never colonized. So the culture is very strong there. I was raised in that. I was raised farming and fishing, and had kind of that baseline that I use now here in Hawaii, where food security is a big part of our mission. And I grew up in a place where food was everywhere, was grown everywhere. And even though we are considered a third world country, we're very food secure. So I use that as a baseline, and also just, to pull from, some mana'o from that to share with the work that I do.
Awesome. So let's dive into your projects, your business. So we had this for people who are joining us in person. And on the back of it, it kind of points out the three different, what do you call them? Three different
I call them projects.
projects.
Hawaiʻi Farm Trails started off with one, the original one, and then it's just organically evolved from there. And I've seen opportunity when it's happened, and then I've come, now we're at 3 projects. And so they're all at the point where they're getting bigger and scaling, and probably need to break off into their own separate ones. But the common, I administer them all together because the common mission is to build capacity with farmers, so our network of farmers, and then and particularly within the tourism industry. So each project kind of hits up a different type of farmer or a different type of customer within all of that. Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know, Kalisi actually has a physical presence in Onomea, in a country store there, right? Where you feature products from farmers and, right, your partners in the area. And then you're working on this new project called Project Kanu. And there's actually a bit more materials there for folks to pick up as well. Can you share a little bit more about this project in particular with us?
Sure. Should I just give a little synopsis of the other two, and then end up with Project Kanu? This Project Kanu is where my heart is at, but it all started with Hawaiʻi Farm Trails, the actual agritourism platform, and that was when my sister and I had started farming back in 2016, 2017, and saw this big gap at the time. Even now, it's not that far long ago, but with this huge tourism industry that was bringing in billions of dollars, but the statistics were saying that on Hawaii Island, 65, about 2/3 of farmers were making less than 10 grand, and half of those were at minus. So they're not even making anything, they're doing it at a loss. So a huge disconnect. And so a big part of that is accessing the customer, right? So how does the farmer access the customer? And so with that, let's just build this platform that puts all that information in one place so that they're more easily discovered. So it became kind of like a promotional platform. Then the pandemic happened. When we released it, 4 months later, pandemic started. And, we were promoting tours and farmers markets and ag events, and that wasn't happening. So I had to pivot. And that's how the second project came about, which is the store, just helping farmers sell their value added goods. And then, last year we opened up on the scenic route. And at the same time, Project Kanu, we launched it as a pilot project, which is basically to assist farmers with covering the cost of establishing an agroforest. Food, wanting to kind of hit up the food security side of things, but also climate adaptation at the same time. And that was building on what I was doing in school. I was, researching carbon sequestration and modeling for agriculture as a solution to climate mitigation, climate change. So, we just saw this opportunity that, okay, here we have this tourism industry, they need to be giving back. We need a more regenerative model. What if we did it this way, and help to bring down the funding through that way. But at the same time, what I was seeing with the other two sectors, the sale of goods and, the hosting of tours, wasn't really hitting up those farmers that are doing real food production. They're not doing agritourism, but there wasn't necessarily a way that they could also benefit. So Project Kanu kind of tries to address that, and it tries to address those farmers who are really invested in perpetuating agroforestry, which is our culture. It's a type of Polynesian agriculture, and that they should be supported to do that, and not have to participate in the tourism industry. Let's keep them, legitimately, authentically in the place where they need to be, and help them cover some of the capital of, covering the cost of establishing those agroforests.
Yeah. So can you explain for people who don't know what agroforestry is? What is that? We can't assume everyone knows, so just
well, agroforestry is basically, some people call it polyforestry, polyforestry, because it has Polynesian roots, but it's basically growing different plants and animals in the same area on different timelines. So it's a mixture that it's not just monocropping, it's incorporating trees, it's having an understory. There's actually what they say 7 different layers to the agroforest, from the soil, inside the soil, to the vines and the trees. So altogether, they kind of it's a little ecosystem, right? And they say, the literature is saying that, agroforests can sequester more carbon as a unit together than each crop individually, which makes a lot of sense. Soil is regenerating, you're putting more carbon into the soil. So I love that model. I think that we can do more with it in, Hawaii, worldwide, and, regenerate our soils at the same time, and has all these additional watershed benefits. So actually, the food that we prepared today, I tried to hit up every layer of the agroforest. I was like, I had this concept in my head, like, let's eat the agroforest. So you have everything there, even a spinach, a type of spinach, which is a vine.
That's great. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Right. So as you're eating, you can experiment to see if you can guess where it's from. Project Kanu, when I first heard about it, I don't know if it's easy to understand what
we started Project Kanu off as like, there must be people out there who are willing to sponsor trees, ulu trees, and let's give them out to farmers for free, right? Because seedlings can cost so much. And this is all built on my own experience as a farmer too, who, got the land, but didn't have a whole lot of capital. And I've seen firsthand what that means for building a viable agribusiness, like actually being able to leave my job and make an income from it. You really need that huge investment of capital up front. But also, agroforestry is risky. It's more risky than if you were to grow, vegetables, it's the long commitment. So it just helps, cover the cost of that for the farmers, the cost of seedlings and supplies. But let me back it up. So we're doing the ulu trees and seeing that, farmers also want to grow other things, not just ulu, and then also part of the, you could grow ulu or other trees, but if you don't have a fence, pigs are going to get it. It's just this whole, different factors that have to happen to make an actual productive farm. And we were doing it kind of B2C, business to customer. So, if you happen to know about us and you want to put sponsorship, or if you have a partner, like a trusted partner, like I have with Ulu Co-op, folks can contribute to trees going to farmers as well. But then I wanted to scale up. I wanted to scale that and go B2B. I was seeing that the more effective way of doing it is I'm working with, and this is, thinking about how to target the tourism industry, working directly with tourism stakeholders, so right now it's the hospitality industry. So working with hotels to help provide a service to them to meet their sustainability goals, by working with them to apply some of that funding towards our program. And then once it, as we work with farmers to get their agroforests established, we're also reporting back to them the impact report, what that impact that particular project made on food production, on carbon sequestration, on watershed, on just all these social economic benefits. So that's where I'm at now. We have this pilot with our first hotel in Waikiki. Waikiki's first green hotel is how they're marketing themselves. And our first farm, which is a native Hawaiian owned farm in Maui. And I'm just right in the middle of it, learning through that process how to build that impact report. So that's really where I'm at. It's quite challenging. There's a lot of data that needs to be built up on the back end, but also looking at how to build that digital system, on the back end that allows me to do it a bit more automated, so that we can work with multiple clients, so we can scale to work with multiple clients and multiple farms at the same time. So that's the digital technology part of it that I'm at, where I'm kind of designing it in my mind, but also, trying to reach out to people who might have that kind of background or knowledge with CRM to build a system that does it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big project. And I think that's part of the reason why we invited Kalisi here, is because we think there might be people who are here in this room or virtually, or people who are going to be watching this that is interested in being part of this project. And Kalisi is a farmer, a mompreneur, a great community builder, many things, but I'm assuming technology is not in your portfolio at this point. You're not a coder, right? Or are you?
Well, I kind of considered myself that when I left NOAA. I was a GIS spatialist or geospatial. So I was doing a lot of remote sensing type work. And when I was, starting my PhD at UH, I was, I created the suitability model for breadfruit in all of Hawaii. So, it's coding, it was using R, and, I do dabble, but I'm not, by no means, knowledgeable at that. But that's what I told myself when we first started Hawaiʻi Farm Trails was, I can make an app. I mean, how many people say that, right? When they, how many entrepreneurs say that? Yeah, let's make an app on this. So a lot of lessons learned from that. I didn't make it, but I got somebody else to make it. And that's really what you're kind of referring to is, yes, I do need like a technology partner. And if, if it comes down to it needing to be a custom built system, the end goal is really to create like a digital product that can be, apart from just, trying to be successful in getting funding down to the farmers, it could be a standalone product that can be shared with other communities, other Pacific Islands who are facing this kind of crisis, right? Of just, the inequalities of how, funding, or the economy works when it comes to the haves and the have-nots. So, yeah.
Cool. So that actually leads me to my next question, which is, kind of, you're in this really interesting space that is connecting technology, right, and research and sustainability and farming. And I just kind of wanted to ask you about, like, how do you think about sustainability and technology and how that comes together?
Sure. Well, yeah. Sustainability, I mean, like I see it now from a lens of, like, before I used to be very, purist and like environmentalism and a lot of that. But now that I'm working with people, I think it's more important to me to talk about sustainability as, equity, social equity, having access to opportunity and wealth and it being distributed equally. And I think that there's like that kind of really can apply to, the sustainable tourism model that we're trying to figure out. Where if there are still marginalized communities that are not benefiting, then it's not sustainable at all. Yeah, so, and then you can see that too happening within agriculture, right? Those who have the capital are in a position to benefit from this industry, but those who don't have this, it's just so challenging to achieve it. So that to me is sort of like a topic on sustainability that I think is what I want to focus on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. I also want to give the audience a chance to ask questions, both you online as well as those folks who are in the room. So I'm gonna ask that for those of you online, let me just borrow this. For those of you online, if you have questions, please put it in chat and we'll kind of go from there. Austin will pitch those questions for us. And those of you in the room, if you have any specific questions you'd like to put out to the whole group, yeah, we'd be welcome to take them. Yeah, Harvey.
So are you able to identify any success stories to date of food sold to the hospitality industry as it is, or is it a better model is the value added?
Okay, so the question is, are you able to tell any success stories today of food sold to the hospitality industry? Is it better to sell the whole product or a value added product? Is that correct?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that value added products are doing really well right now. I mean, even if you go to like a resort, you might find them within the stores now. And when it comes to the actual produce, I think that like there are organizations to deal with that. And I think, Ulu Co-op is one of those. I remember talking with Donna how they are working really well with chefs at restaurants and hotels, and they're, working together on programs like that. Yeah. Right.
Any other questions? I can keep going, but I just wanted to, yeah.
I'm trying to think of how to word it. I have a question about how you build community with consciousness of social equity and sustainability. So how building community just with so many different pieces in mind, like building partnerships in the community too.
Can I ask you to, I think, what's the question part? I think.
What's your advice for building community in a way that's really conscious of and inclusive of social equity and sustainability?
The question is, what's your advice on building community in a way that addresses social equity and sustainability?
That's a big
I
question.
know. You know, it's Kalisi.
I mean, I can only speak for myself and, and what I do and, farmers and. I mean, big question. Building community and what we can do to build community and bring in, the little guys. I think there's just, there's the table, and then there's like making the table safe and accessible to sit at. I think it's part of what I would say, I think that there needs to be a will from the community to step forward, but then that has to be fostered by those that are leading the way, or the organizations that have the capacity to build it, so yeah, I think that there's a lot of capacity that needs to be built from the bottom up in terms of just knowing what's out there and accessing the type of resources that could assist with bringing up the difference in, the equity status.
You have a question? Yeah.
We have a number of questions from the Zoom room.
Okay, I'm gonna hand you the mic so that you can ask the question.
So Echo You from Zoom is asking comments here. When I was on Oahu, I used FarmLink Hawaii to buy a lot of local produce. Are you looking at partnering with local organizations who are doing or intend to do similar things?
So we've been mainly focused on value added, and we're focused on trying to create markets with the tourism industry. Classic example of our pilot with our first hotel right now wants to stock the tea that the farmer grows, the mamaki tea that the farmer grows in their hotel. So we're seeing this full circle, and we can track that from the very beginning to the end, and we can assign and say that this was regeneratively grown. And then also the capacity building programs that I run are on the value added side, the branding, the packaging and the marketing side. So when it comes to getting fresh produce out to the community, there are some really good organizations doing that. And we're doing that in our little corner of the world up in Kepeakeo. But we are just this month announcing that we will be a pickup location for Farm to Car. So Farm to Car does something similar to FarmLink on Oahu, where you go online and you have until Sunday to order, and then you go to Kea'au and pick it up. But the issue is that you have to go all the way to Kea'au. And so folks up in Hamakua Coast, where we are, it's difficult. So we're partnering with them to make that more accessible. And so we'll soon be a pickup location there too.
Great.
Yeah, we're excited. We're getting more into the food production side of things. We're trying to build up a little commercial kitchen over there and get more into, processing food there and opening it up for farmers to come and access as well.
Okay, more? One more from Austin, and then
I'll do a follow-up here. I
Yeah.
wish I could talk to you. I would talk for hours just about what you were talking about. Because the pandemic has really changed how we buy groceries in a durable way. that hasn't really reverted that much, now that we're getting together in person again. And so I think it's actually a huge opportunity for organizations like yours that are doing farm to car to break into streams of produce that didn't really exist before. But that's not the question that was online. The question that's online, related to your work with hotels, William Steiner says, displacing product at big hotels can be difficult given the volume they might need. Did I hear you say you were marketing to hotels? Are you expanding the work that you're doing with hotels?
Should I just come out with a whole big vision?
Yes, yes, we want
If I
that.
say it, then I have to commit to it.
Put it out in the universe and then see what happens.
Delete.
Yeah.
Well, and also the right of an entrepreneur is to pivot. So, right? Like you did with your other projects too. So you can share with us a vision at hand now, and then if it evolves, then it evolves, right?
We have enough qualifiers.
Well, I mean, my grand vision, when you're doing accelerators, you have to say, what's your grand vision, which is like the almost unattainable vision, which is that every visitor to Hawaii gives back through our programs, right? And so, like, it's not just every day, okay, let's do this, but more, like, let's see who are the gatekeepers, the hotels, the airlines, the, car rental places. Those are, everybody's funneled through there. So if you're working with them, then you could be touching every visitors, all the visitors that come. So they have a kuleana too. So it's about telling that story to them that makes them, want to give back and understand. Yeah, I mean, most people, it's just part of it's the, what is it? Triple bottom line now, if you're running a business, you gotta, find the shared value that's gonna make you even more competitive because you're green, you're giving back. But yeah, and I have, so I've looked into, what if we were to replace some of those in-house amenities, and that's a long road. I mean, and I've started to talk to a few people who are the ones that like supply the soaps and the teas and whatnot. Yeah, but that is something ahead that I would like to, try and look into to see if it's possible. I mean, I think, the co-oping of some of these agroforestry products, co-crops, there's people who want to do it, that are trying to do it. And it's, talking with them and seeing what can be done, right? We've had a great example with the Ulu Co-op, they can show us, how a model like that might work. But then there's all the other plants in the agroforest, and I know there's some folks wanting to do a mamaki co-op, those are the type of partnerships that we need to build so that we can actually progress and feel like that might even be possible, when we approach some of those suppliers or those bigger hotels. And yeah, but just right at the beginning of it all.
You had a question?
Yeah. So with your background in GIS and carbon sequestration, I'm wondering if as you grow and work with more farmers, if you can incorporate the carbon sequestration model for these farms so that they can then, kind of almost research projects embedded in each agroforestry project that you start, so they can then have even more clout when they're applying for grants or things like that. If that's in your vision as well.
Okay, so the question was, with your background in carbon sequestration and all of that gathering data and that sort of work you've done, can you help, right? Each of these farms are building agroforest to build in that so that they can apply for grants and be able to use that information.
Little research projects. I know there's literature abundantly available, but it'd be really cool to, again, Hawaii based, right? Place-based.
they use to create carbon credits, or talk about, my farm is able to sequester this much. And when I was in grad school, I got sent to Colorado to get trained on that model, that underlying model, the comment tool, that does that for, it's an NRCS tool, but that's what they use for a lot of the carbon offsetting applications use on continent, but it cannot be used in Hawaii. It's not applicable. We have different soils. It's all about measuring the carbon in the soils. And we have different soils. We have volcanic soils. We know that they are sticky for carbon. First of all, because the type of soil they are, but also because it's so degraded from, the sugarcane industry that there's really high potential to sequester and get. So the science, there's still a lot of science that needs to be done with that. There's, Susan Crow at UH, and then there's Noah Lincoln, who was my advisor. They're all trying to work towards finding the best way to measure that. And a lot of, when we first got into this, it was like, well, how do we measure it so we can, sell it as an offset, or talk about it as an offset? We're not anywhere near that, but my whole thing is that, get the farmer to the level where they have that choice, not like us or anybody else. The farmer then can put themselves on there and say, this is what I want to sell. I've created this, I've committed to it. And we work with multiple farmers, so that model doesn't work, where you have to put that land aside for the next 40 years and don't touch it, type of thing. And so there's this thing called the blockchain model, and there are applications out there where farmers can go in and opt to sell their credits on there. And definitely they could use that for writing grants as well. The challenging part about farming and grant writing is that, most grants take, and this is part of the inequity part, how do we have that same, seat at the table, that it's really hard to access grant funding for farmers because they are businesses and most grants are for nonprofits. Even with the HTA, you couldn't, agritourism was their top on the list, but you couldn't apply for the CEP grant because you were a farm in a business and you couldn't have a fiscal sponsor. So some of those type of issues that nobody really talks about, but it keeps them down there, those farmers.
Do you have any other?
It was a small follow-up online.
Okay. Sure. Go ahead.
So I was wondering about another aspect of sustainability, and Mickey and I are looking at it from a little different angle as an alternative farm school kind of perspective. Where we had the opportunity to interview farmers around the island some, including at the Hawaiian Farmers Union. And we found pretty much across the board, the same question is coming up, is how do we get the kids back on the land? How do we, a lot of kids grow up and move away, don't come back. How do you get them to fall in love with the land again? And then we have ideas, but we think it's a crucial piece. And I'm wondering if you can answer that question, how do we get kids back on the land? So, and I know I don't mean to put you in the spot, but it's that kind of.
Yeah, so we have someone who's, what's your name? Lyman, who's sharing that he's talked to a lot of farmers across the island. And one of the key questions that's being asked is, how do we invite the youth, young people, right? And people who are gonna wanna farm, how do we invite them back to the land? How do we help them love the land and take care of it?
Get into tech. It's funny because I just did a career day at Lapahoehoe, and that's what kids are interested in. I think that farming needs to it needs to allow for innovation and like financial success for it to seem like a viable option for the young people these days. I just, that's such a big missing piece. Every time we talk about agriculture, it's like, oh, it's too hard. There's no money in it. You're not going to earn anything. And so, of course, they're not going to want to go into it unless, there's some deeper passion that's driving them, which is whether it's, culture. I think when I see Native Hawaiians, that's a big part of them trying to reclaim their cultural identities, getting back onto the land, so there's building out that component, that's gonna attract them. But yeah, even within agritourism, there's these, structures or, like legal structures that doesn't allow the farm to flourish or get ahead financially, and that just like kills the innovation and, the drive for young people, I think. So yeah, there's
So follow-up to that is, so do you see the Ulu Co-op then as a potential model for a path to prosperity for individual farmers that are all contributing to a cooperative?
I'm gonna ask the question. So the question is, so do you see Ulu Co-op, for example, as a model of individual farmers being able to flourish because they're in cooperative?
I would say so. I think that, well, I'm a part of the co-op, so I can say the same for my farm, but it's a long road. I mean, it's such a long road. I mean, I'm 5 years into it and I still haven't, harvested yet, so.
It's like a 7-year cycle, is it? For the Ulu?
Yeah, they start fruiting between 3 to 5 years. So mine are, but they're too small at this point. They're too young and small, but there's so much potential with it, that, if they grow as they're projecting to, there's so much that can be had from the farmer who's trying to pursue it. At this point, it's still, you're still participating as a farmer that still has to find income elsewhere, right? So you still have to have an alternative form of income. And that might be the case for a long time yet as an Ulu farmer. Yeah, but it's a great model, and I think we should support as much as we can and see where it'll take us.
I'm just curious, I'm gonna go back to bringing the youth back to the land, and you mentioned like to attract people to come back home, it has to be profitable and attractive and like innovative. You brought up technology. I'm just curious, what kind of technologies do you identify right now as being part of that to innovate agriculture?
So the question is, what kind of technologies do you see as, things that could be innovative in agriculture in the context of, wanting to engage, right, the younger generations and people who might be looking for more profitable, innovative options?
Sure. I mean, Hawaii, it's the technology for agriculture is really to kind of do more with less, so whatever sort of innovation that might mean, because we aren't able to access large amounts of land, right? So how can you do it vertically or in the urban, setting? And how do you incorporate it into other types of industries, like education, and how do you diversify it so that it's not just about the food production part of it. There's so much for other things. We don't have improvement increase. Or we can kind of do that. doing it in a more smart way, you know, with structure.
So I was on a water tour and people on the screen. You guys don't have familiar, there's the popcorn acting blog this fall. And so we're part of this tour. There are people who are technologists, there are people who are farmers. The Ulu Co-op was actually showcasing their farm project with Ulu and with OK Farms, right? They're doing a collaboration. And one of the guys who's kind of on the tech side, who's one of the speakers, said, so how do you gather data? And they're like, well, pen and paper for the most part, right? And then he's like, how about you put a helmet on, put like a Go Cam on it, and then you say good fruit, bad fruit. And or you, whatever, you're good leaf, bad leaf, and you start capturing data digitally, and then you can aggregate all of that data and make it easier for farmers to like track whether something's turning bad or if there's a warning, you know, that intervention that needs to be happening with a crop or something like that. They can just walk through and scan the field instead of having to, you know, do it manually. I don't know if this is a great idea. I don't know if farmers like will say that that'll actually work or not, but I'm just saying there might be technology solutions to things that we do manually currently.
I think you're getting, there's a good point I didn't think about, but like the big data, right? The big global data sets that are just constantly being collected. I was, you know, dabbling with that before, you know, full time with Hawaiʻi Farm Trails, but you know, there's so the skill is really how to condense it to help answer your problem, right? And we have daily stats of temperature and, you know, how do we bring temperature, climate, you know, all those, and then how do we marry that with what we know about how a plant grows so that we can be smart about growing them. You know, I mean, my first year of grad, I was thinking, what if we build a system where we could just, with the climate data that we have, predict, you know, already what's going to happen to a crop before it happens so that we can, you know, create those little, like, you know, the IoT, right? It's going to give you, it's going to convey to you that, you know, you better go water, or, you know, it just like the warning system to be able to mitigate any danger that might befall your crops, you know, because once it does, then it's too late. And a lot of it is weather related. So that was one thought that came to mind. How to put this with big data sets and then how to operate with them is really challenging.
You have one more question.
I do. I wonder, you know, from the perspective of indigenous science and from helping to keep our Hawaiian culture vital, and are people going to the elders and asking them how they would solve these problems or how they did solve these problems in the past? You know, you know, without technology, we're kind of playing catch up with technology, in my opinion, but I'm wondering what is there an effort, or are people making an effort to support the culture as part of agriculture and sustainability?
So I think the question is there an effort to ask elders and tap into the indigenous culture and wisdom there to address problems in ag and, you know, in technology in that sense, not necessarily being just like the things, but indigenous knowledge. Is that your question?
Yeah, it's a big question in
Yeah.
the end, but that's where
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I grew up with elders and I still have them in my home, and I remind myself every day to listen to them. Because, you know, as a younger generation, you think, oh, you know, I know everything. But it's funny because I just had my in-laws stay with us for the last 3 months, and, you know, so interesting to kind of like step back and the things that my father-in-law says, and how he does it. He helped me with planting and everything. So different. I think what like in kupuna knowledge, from from a plant perspective, plant science perspective, they have a lot of intel when it comes to phenology that is like being lost, right? It's just their observation that this happens at this time when this happens, right? So that's what phenology is. And this is why this happened, like when we had I didn't even know there was 2 cold snaps until I saw 2 different times that my ulu fruits fell off prematurely. And it was when we had that rainfall for a long time and then big snowfall on the Mauna, and then realized we must have gone below a certain temperature, and I should have looked it up but how cool would it be to overlay that kind of knowledge with actual, climate data? And that would really assist us to give kind of insight as to how to adapt as the climate changes and how, what are the signs for that? Yeah.
Do you think technologists would benefit from learning about farming and actually experiencing it and understanding it so that they can come up with practical solutions to solve problems rather than just looking at it from a technology lens?
So the question is, do you think that technologists would benefit from farming and working in the land to be able to solve those problems, right? Having the experience to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder if there's like a way to build that into the to the curriculum of tech.
Farming boot camp.
But I mean, like if you it's just problem solving, like, oh, let's bring a bunch of technologists and have a boot camp and put them on the farm so they can help us solve these issues that we're seeing, disease. Oh my gosh, I just got an infestation on my on my trees, and that for sure can show up on, lenses or satellite or LiDAR, all of that. But no, I mean, for the farmer, it has to be low cost, right? I think that's the thing. Data-driven models can often be, or, innovation can often be so expensive that, it doesn't necessarily help on the ground. So building those sort of low cost pathways, it doesn't have to be tech or something fancy, just the system of doing something, that's easy and low cost. And then kind of making that legitimate, right? I mean, if you're saying just like systems of measuring things that allows that to be used as an impact that's, legitimate and recognized.
Well, so go again.
I couldn't help but think about what's happening in Kohala, the Kohala Food Systems Initiative. And one of the statistics they came up with was that a lot of farmers are in their 60s or what. So how do you sustain this movement? How do you recruit a younger generation? And so, as a young farmer, right, coming in, what are some of the bars that stop you? Obviously, money, right? But what about shared resources? So I think about what's happening in Kohala, and they have Iole, they have this beautiful land that they're going to use. They're partnering with other agencies in Kohala, like the Kohala Food Hub or whatnot, to be able to provide training, provide courses. If you pass the training, then you get to have a plot of land in Iole, and you get to benefit from shared resources like tractors. So they're trying to eliminate a lot of the bars that would stop a young person from getting into that. Partnering with distributors, the people that can market and brand and all that stuff. So less stuff for them to think about, but really community coming together, partner agencies coming together to make the farming process a lot easier for them. Do you see that as a future business model? Being able to work in communities, Hamakua, Kohala, and Silo working full circle with distributors, farmers, leveraging land for a shared cost. I guess my question is, what are some of those bars? Do you think that's some of the things that would entice or with the younger generation if those bars are eliminated?
So in the context of Kohala community specifically, we're talking about there are organizations that are partnering together, the community coming together to remove certain barriers to entry for younger farmers, right? So that they can be able to farm and be able to have resources and share resources. You know, what are some barriers? What are some barriers people to enter into farming and into these projects? And do you think that that sort of model, I think it's similar to the question asked earlier about, you know, a co-op model, like, does that answer our needs?
Oh, man, guys. I would ask, you know, what do you think? Do you think it's a good model? I mean, you're Native Hawaiian, you know, like, what do you think? Do you think this is good for Hawaii? Like, is this the way forward? You know, this sort of like community, almost like an ag park type model, right? Where land is made available and resources are shared. Yeah, I mean, it might be the only way forward for, you know, for Hawaii, because land is so hard to get in the first place for anybody, you know, even those who are doing well, you know. So I think that, you know, it sounds like there's a lot of different initiatives trying to kind of get towards that same concept. And even as an individual farmer, I have felt, you know, that challenge of being able to access these sort of really high cost resources, like equipment. You know, that was another idea, like, what if we just created an equipment co-op, you know, for women? So they feel safe, you know, about, like, you know, their insecurities about operating these machinery. I don't know, it was just one of those things that it makes people feel safe that they can, you know, raise their hand and say, that's for me. It's this sort of system that is in place to do that. I mean, I also think that, you know, accelerators, like, I'm a child of accelerators. I grew up with Purple Maya Foundation. Like, I've done 3 with them, and yeah, like, if we could just do more of those for farmers and kids and younger kids, and, you know, give them like the chance to experiment and fund them, give them the money, or at least pay for the trees.
So we have something else?
We have stuff online.
Okay, go for it.
So we have some talk online about how we might be able to bring technology to agriculture through our community college. For instance, William Steiner's pointing out that there is federal funding that is coming down for small colleges, and it's something that HCC could potentially take a lead on. We also have a question sort of somewhat related to that from Echo U, saying, from your experience, do you see a future of agricultural education, tourism, and hospitality education merging to create a localized agritourism program at our community college, catering to young people as well as farmers who want to incorporate tourism into their business models?
Agritourism.
That's a great question for my sister.
You should mention her, give her a shout out.
Okay.
So people know who she is.
Angela Fa'anono, she's, you know, tourism of, you know, my words jumbled. She's a professor at the College of Economics, focused on sustainable tourism. Yeah, I think that is a great, that is a great suggestion. I think there's so much that could be done to not only inspire, you know, like inspire youth to get into it as a viable, you know, career path, but also to benefit the existing structures that are here that are not doing it necessarily the right way. You know, like even just, I have a grant right now where, you know, we dedicated some funds to have Angela put together a guide for farmers on how to just run an agritourism, or how to, a guide for farmers for tours on farms, you know, so, but really kind of trying to get towards the incorporating the story of place, you know, making it a lot more authentic and not just about the product that they're trying to grow, but kind of where you are and that sense of immersion that the visitor needs. Not immersion, just that sense of
Experiential and.
yeah, connection, there's a word for it, where meaningful, where, you know, they go away and it's not just about chocolate, it's about the place that it was grown in and the history of that place. And so that's really lacking right now, and that's part of, you know, the Malama Hawaii concept. But yeah, and then also what we're seeing too is like the labor force within it, right? Who are doing these tours, you know, are they connected to place? You know, are they, you know, are they folks that are coming in and doing it and going out? I just, you know, the whole system of it where you're almost taking back in Hawaii what it means to ho'okipa, which is, you know, one of the values of the Hawaii culture. You know, it is central to being a Hawaiian or even a Pacific Island. It's the same thing. It's our strong sense of hospitality. But right now it feels like there's shame in it, you know, and so having a program like that could potentially assist us with getting that ho'okipa back to where, you know, we are proud hosts. Yeah.
I should add that Echo has disclosed that he works at HCC and wouldn't mind being contacted.
Okay, that's great. I mean, we'd love to share contact information and yeah, connect. And speaking of HCC and workforce, there is an initiative, the University of Hawaii Community College System is rolling out Good Jobs Hawaii, that is funding both education as well as internship for much needed industries. And I understand that Hawaii Community College is actually working on a component around ag that is not necessarily a strong suit in Oahu per se, but, you know, along with healthcare, IT, creative, there might be an ag component. So that's exciting.
And then I also meant to say that isn't Edith, the Edith Kanakaole Foundation, they're working at a certification, like a tour certification that, you know, certifies that you are doing it regeneratively. I can't speak anymore to that, but I think that they're doing, you know, making moves on that too. I think we're all seeing it, you know, it needs to be better, done better, and let's show them how to do it better. It's not like turn our backs on it, but show them how to do it better.
Awesome. We're gonna kind of take a pause from this and then allow people who are in the room to mingle and meet Kalisi directly and ask any follow-up questions. For you who are virtual, in the virtual realm, if there are, you know, things that you haven't been able to address and you want to connect with Kalisi, please put it in chat. We'll get it to Kalisi and your contact information and such that, you know, she might be able to reach out, maybe not anytime soon. I know she's just a busy mompreneur, but we want to make the connection for you. My kind of closing, I have a closing question for Kalisi and a closing comment, which is, you know, I think parts of this came up in talking about community and talking about technology, but, you know, I've been learning about humans as our best adaptive technology, right? Human beings. And how do we, as human beings, work together, learn from one another, share resources, and advance together? And I think that's a big part of how we solve these problems we're talking about. And because of that, I want to give Kalisi an opportunity to make an ask and an invitation. So, you know, like if there are people in this room or people online or people who are going to watch this later who are like, yeah, I want to help, I want to support, or, you know, what are the challenges or problems that you're trying to solve now, and what kinds of help might be, you know, things that it would help you to be able to grow Project Kanu, be able to, set up a lot of more sustainability in the projects that you're currently working on?
Well, as a startup, I think referrals are so important. It's just finding the trusted partners and the ones that have a similar mission that you could work together and go do better together, right? I mean, there's always funding. I think Project Kanu at the stage that it's at, like I'm wanting to try to find an accelerator that I can get into that will assist me to develop this digital system behind it. But I need funding too to fund, not just me, but a project manager that we can work together on, and some other types of resources that needs to be gotten. So, yeah.
Funding?
Funding.
Someone who can
Referrals.
referrals for what?
Referrals?
Yeah.
Oh, for when opportunity, if you know of any opportunity where Project Kanu might be, the right fit, right? If you know of any companies that are looking for a sustainability partner, looking for ways to give back, we're here, please refer us. And then also just those who are working towards the same goal, I would much rather collaborate. And I've seen so much come out of collaboration, than trying to work alone. I mean, classic example, I gotta give them a shout out, they're here. The Kai pasta is on the food side, but the Kai pasta guys, I'm not a pasta maker. I just really would like to make ulu flour, and they were so awesome. And, we worked together to create an ulu pasta product, and that's what's out there. So make sure you, give it a try and let us know how you like it.
Great. Well, Kalisi, thank you so much for carving out time to be here and to answer some really big questions that the audience threw at you.
You guys made me feel like I had so much experience behind me and then so much insight into things.
And I think it's great. I encourage you to stick around. Please enjoy your food and the mamake tea that's delicious. And then we also, Maria, on behalf of Maria, Austin, and we just want to invite you, if you want to stay connected. We will try to do more of these kinds of events. If you have ideas of entrepreneurs you'd like to meet or hear from, if you would like to share your projects with us, please reach out. So we'll be around. Thank you.
Last year, environmental studies.
You were reading technology.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for attending online.
As well, but there's another coin on this side that works in research project.